81 days into the Trump presidency, the one constant has been rumblings about Priebus, Bannon, Kushner, West Wing turf wars, and policy battles. But the president told them to work it out and to cut it out. So it's done, right?
Everyone behave yourself. Everyone got their wrist slapped. Look, I think the president could have said one of you is out of here, and clearly they decided not to go that route. It's almost like they don't want a major staff shakeup at the end of their first 100 days. We've had a lot of that kind of drama. I think that you are seeing very different factions on policy this time. It's not necessarily a personality clash like we've seen in the past, but Steve Bannon stands for very different things than Jared Kushner stands for very different things than Reince Priebus stands for. It's worth noting that Reince has been another name that's been on the chopping block from day one, so it looks awfully good for him in the retelling of this meeting that President Trump looked over his shoulder and said, Priebus, you go make these buffoons play nicely together.
You play referee, but you make an important point because we saw this in the Trump campaign. And so it's no surprise that some of this chaos and staff turf battles, sharp elbows, has come to the Trump White House. But the policy differences, look at the Obamacare debate. Why couldn't they get a bill? Because you have several factions in the Republican Party who think very differently about policy. To your point about a potential turnover and shakeup, listen to Kellyanne Conway here. She was asked, as a story tried to bubble out over the weekend, well, is someone going to go?
Is Bannon there to stay? Is Reince Priebus there to stay?
I would assume so. That's up to Donald Trump. In other words, I've heard nothing but rumors and innuendos and press reports that would make any of us believe that anything other than the real shakeup going on in Washington is the way Donald Trump is coming in as a disruptor.
A pivot, as they say in Washington, but one born of experience. I assume so, meaning people are safe. That's up to Donald Trump because she was out saying the president had 100% confidence in General Flynn a few hours before he was fired.
If Kellyanne Conway came out and said that I'm going to be there for a long time, I would start to pack my bags. I mean, so I think actually she has learned that. And at this point, you can't predict because it is one man. It's not a predictable situation. And what's interesting is you talk about policy. That's what is at the heart of this. It's not just personality, it's policy. And Steve Bannon lost last week, for instance, on Syria. He doesn't think that the United States should be more involved in that war there. And that's part of, I think, a larger trend right now in which he has not been winning some of the battles that he wants to win.
And remember, he was on the cover of Time as, essentially as the president, the de facto president, the shadow president.
The president
how minimized is he? You mentioned he gets knocked off his principal seat at the National Security Council. There's other talk that in terms of, the Syria strikes, not America first, some other domestic issues, not the robust action on trade that the president promised in the campaign right out of the gate. Has Steve Bannon become a lesser, smaller figure inside the inner circle?
Well, he's certainly at odds with the president's son-in-law, which is not a great place to be if you're in the White House. And the interesting thing about this is we've all covered a number of, discontent in the White House. This person's fighting with this person. This isn't even a dynamic that people are trying to deny. It's actually really bad. But from the president's perspective, the one place where he is doing really well in the polls is among his conservative base, and that is Steve Bannon. And so there's a certain value that he brings to the table.
And yet you mentioned the president has kept his support among his core supporters and Republicans more broadly. It's dropped a little bit. It was in the 80s, high 80s. Now it's around 80 or in the 70s. You look at some polls. But as this all plays out, conservatives get nervous. Here's Steve King, the congressman from Iowa, a very conservative on immigration, trade, and other issues, tweeted this out. At Real Donald Trump, Steve Bannon is the linchpin to your energized base. Conservatives are an endangered species in your White House.
Yeah, I mean, it's in many ways sort of the three faces of Donald Trump. I mean, one of whom is Bannon, the kind of Breitbart wing, and then you've got Jared Kushner, who is sort of the New York moderate Democrat part of Donald Trump, and then Reince Priebus, who is there and is the conservative sort of establishment Republican. I think one of the problems is, maybe we sort of get back to the sibling rivalry thing, all of these people believe or think they should be the firstborn favorite son, right? And it is up to Donald Trump to finally figure out who really is the favorite son. I mean, my money would be on the real son-in-law.
But also, can we acknowledge the irony here? This is a president that likes to sow this sort of
exactly.
Chaos, and now he's having to referee it, and it's so it's just,
after stoking it for.
But interesting to watch is the three of them seems to be every couple of weeks they have to have a seance or break out the Ouija board to figure out their differences. To watch General McMaster, who's come into the National Security Council. General Flynn was out, and now Katie McFarland, who General Flynn brought in as the number 2, a former Fox News personality. You might be familiar with her. She's now going to leave to become ambassador to Singapore as General McMaster puts his stamp on the operation. And he was asked, we played a little bit at the top of the show about this Steve Bannon being shoved out, and he essentially said, oh, no big deal. Because if you're a bureaucratic infighter and you're winning, you keep a poker face.